The moment they walked through the event's doors, it all came crashing down.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be looking at the most bizarre, shocking, and jaw-dropping events of 2024 that left us all shaken to the core.
I always did my best to be a trooper, never complain.
Boeing's defective planes. Boarding a flight only to have the fuselage rip off midair sounds like a scene from a disaster movie.
It's a photo Kelly Bartlett says she never thought to take, but she's glad she did after living through the terrifying experience on Flight 1282.
But for passengers on Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 on January 5th, 2024, that scene came to life. Shortly after the Boeing 737 aircraft took off, a door plug ripped away, sucking out passengers' items.
So at first I thought it was just the window, and then I realized it was the whole panel, and that the kid who was sitting in that row, like, his seatbelt had saved his life.
Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. In the following weeks, several Boeing planes experienced more alarming defects, which led to the aircrafts being grounded.
In a statement, the company said safety is its top priority, and it has worked closely with regulators, investigators, and stakeholders to implement changes that ensure accidents like these never happen again.
Investigations soon discovered that in the January 5th incident, Boeing failed to install crucial bolts to secure the fuselage panel, sparking a criminal investigation into the company. Then, in a bizarre twist, Boeing whistleblower John Barnett was found dead in March, which only fueled suspicions about the company. Bahar Bridge collapses. A single bridge collapse is worrisome, but when 12 bridges crumble within 17 days in just one state, then that's a full-blown crisis.
Another day, another bridge collapse. This is the story of Bihar.
Beginning in June 2024, a dozen bridges gave way in the state of Bihar, India, with multiple sometimes happening on the same day.
These concrete lifelines seem to be collapsing one after another at a pretty alarming rate.
The timing coincided with the onset of monsoon season, cutting off communication between villages and disrupting access to schools and hospitals, which left many communities stranded.
The recent bridge collapses across the state have not only disrupted daily life, but they've also shaken the public confidence in these structures that should be lifelines for the public.
These incidents expose the use of subpar construction materials and the negligence of the engineers in charge. In early July, the state government suspended 15 engineers involved and ordered a reconstruction of the bridges at the contractor's expense. Kate Middleton's disturbing disappearance. It's unusual for a prominent royal to disappear from public duties, so when Kate Middleton remained out of sight for months, speculation ran wild.
I think it's really hard to understand really why they're not telling us.
Although Kensington Palace had announced in January 2024 that Middleton underwent abdominal surgery and was recovering, conspiracy theories still circulated. Some suggested she had divorced Prince William, undergone cosmetic surgery, or even passed away. In an attempt to calm the storm, Kensington Palace released a Mother's Day photo of Middleton with her children. But it only fanned the conspiratorial flames.
The princess apologized, raising new questions about what's going on behind the palace walls.
Observers noted several discrepancies with the image, which led reputable news outlets to take it down. Finally, on March 22nd, Middleton broke her silence with a video disclosing that she had been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing chemotherapy.
We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space, and privacy while I complete my treatment.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s brainworm. There is such a thing as too much information, and voters got plenty of it during the 2024 presidential campaign, thanks to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Tonight, new questions about the health of independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
During a podcast interview, Kennedy revealed that he suffered memory loss and mental fog in 2010 after a worm crawled into his brain, ate part of it, and died there. Doctors initially thought he had a brain tumor, but it was eventually determined that the culprit was, in fact, a parasitic worm.
Most people will have at least some degree of cognitive impairment just because of the inflammation that goes on in the brain when a parasite has made a home for itself there.
Never one to shy away from unsettling personal stories, Kennedy later revealed that he once dumped a dead bear cub in Central Park just because.
So I pulled over and I picked up the bear.
We're not entirely sure what drove him to that decision, but we have a wiggly hunch. Kolkata sexual assault and murder. On August 8, 2024, a trainee doctor in Kolkata, India, went to sleep after enduring a grueling 36-hour shift. The following morning, her body was discovered, having been sexually assaulted and murdered. As a result, thousands of doctors went on strike and took to the streets in protest.
There's an anger that has been simmering for generations amongst doctors, amongst women, amongst all healthcare workers.
The day after the grim discovery, Sanjay Roy, a police volunteer, was arrested after confessing to the crime.
He was the one who had been seen on CCTV walking close to the lecture hall where the murder had taken place.
He was officially charged in October. But Roy wasn't the only one facing repercussions. Hospital administrators allegedly attempted to cover up the crime, initially telling the doctor's parents that she had taken her own life. Amid the growing protests, Sandeep Kumar Ghosh, the hospital's principal, resigned, only to be arrested later for tampering with evidence.
Sandeep will be produced before the Shialda court on Sunday.
The self-immolation of Aaron Bushnell. Since the Israel-Hamas war began in October 2023, the U.S. has pumped billions of dollars into supporting Israel while condemning the civilian casualties in Palestine. This has led to widespread protests, even from within President Biden's administration and the U.S. military.
These are some live pictures of a vigil underway outside the Israeli embassy in Northwest D.C. People there are gathering to remember 25-year-old Aaron Bushnell.
On February 25, 2024, Air Force serviceman Aaron Bushnell took his opposition to an extreme level. That morning, he messaged media outlets about his plan to, quote, protest against the genocide of the Palestinian people. Dressed in full combat gear, Bushnell stood in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and ended it all,
screaming, "Free Palestine!"
He was rushed to the hospital, where he succumbed to his burn injuries. This marked the second self-immolation protest against U.S. support for Israel. Jeffrey Epstein unsealed documents. The case against disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein keeps unraveling, even years after his death.
We learn more each time about how this sophisticated trafficking operation happened.
Epstein, who was charged with trafficking young victims, reportedly took his own life in his jail cell while awaiting trial. Since then, calls to unseal court documents have grown louder, and in January 2024, they were finally released.
He was a brilliant manipulator of powerful men.
These documents named an eyebrow-raising mix of victims, friends, and high-profile associates of Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell.
This was a well-oiled machine.
Among them were Donald Trump, David Copperfield, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Michael Jackson, and, to everyone's surprise, Stephen Hawking. While merely being named doesn't imply guilt, the documents revealed disturbing tidbits, including Clinton's alleged preference for young partners and Hawking's participation in an inappropriate group activity. Attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Back in July 2024, Donald Trump was still the presumptive Republican nominee for the U.S. presidential election. On July 13th, mere days before he was scheduled to formally accept the nomination, Trump was shot during a rally in Pennsylvania.
The entire campaign apparatus is just deeply rattled. A lot of people have not been able to have a chance to speak with the former president directly.
The perpetrator, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, fired several rounds that killed one attendee and injured two others before he was finally shot by the Secret Service.
Local police taking these pictures when they first noticed the shooter, and these pictures of the items found on the roof.
Trump was wounded in his right ear, but luckily escaped without any critical injuries. As the most serious attempt on a president or presidential candidate's life since Ronald Reagan in 1981, the attack drew bipartisan condemnation.
Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick.
Surprisingly, this was only the first of two attempts, with the second taking place at his Florida golf course 2 months later.
He posted a message on social media assuring that he is safe and well and saying nothing will slow him down.
Sean Diddy Combs' arrest and escalation of the case. Sean Diddy Combs' downfall began in November of 2023 when his former partner, Cassie Ventura, filed a lawsuit accusing him of sexual and physical assault.
Saying in a statement, "After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships."
Although the case was quickly settled, Ventura's claims gained further credibility in May 2024 when surveillance footage showed Combs attacking her in a hotel. By September, the scandal escalated as Combs was arrested on charges for racketeering and sex trafficking. Then came the disturbing revelations surrounding his past behavior. Combs's alleged hosting of freak-off parties, drugging sex workers and coercing them into acts he filmed to ensure their silence.
A good 80 to 90% of what we see in the indictment is from video evidence because it takes time. It takes months to go through that evidence to identify who some of these victims and witnesses are, to reach out to them, to then hope that they will be willing to testify.
If convicted, Combs could face life in prison. But even without a conviction, his legal troubles aren't over. More than 100 lawsuits are pending from individuals accusing him of assault during the 2000s and 2010s.
I believe the indictment is the tip of the iceberg.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
It's an incredibly scary thought. I mean, there's countless victims who we likely won't know the identities of, but my hope is that they get some sense of justice from this.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Bombshell revelations from Quiet on the Set documentary. Nickelodeon owes much of its success to Dan Schneider.
In the mid-90s, Nickelodeon is pushing the boundaries of children's entertainment. And this is when Dan Schneider arrives.
The man behind iconic series like The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and iCarly was once the network's golden boy. However, in the wake of the Me Too movement, allegations of toxic workplace behavior forced Nickelodeon to sever ties with him. Then came the 2024 series Quiet on the Set, which pulled back the curtain on even more troubling allegations.
We were there for so many hours. You get comfortable with people. Until you're not.
The documentary featured former Nickelodeon child stars and writers alleging predatory behavior and gender discrimination behind the scenes. Notably, actor Drake Bell, whose identity was previously sealed, revealed himself as the victim in a 2003 case involving a former Nickelodeon dialogue coach.
I knew that my life was going to be absolutely completely different from that point on.
These revelations cast a harsh spotlight on the industry's failure to protect its most vulnerable talents.
Environment on set really matters when we're talking about kids because if they aren't protected, then they're vulnerable to much worse.
What 2024 events troubled you the most? Let us know in the comments below.
You know, not everybody gets to be normal afterwards.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.